Hello, this is an introduction to the assessment system on our trainertextlibrary.com site. So this is the home page. In order to access your account, you go to the UK teacher page, and here you got all the different options you have. So there's the training and the standard downloads, assessment, smartboard lessons, and all the rest of it. It's all self-explanatory. And of course, just to be aware that the trainertext library is what we'd recommend as the strongest type of intervention, keep up intervention. When somebody's struggling a little bit, it allows you to bring their familiarity with the GPCs up in the shortest time. So we're going into the assessment system, and what you'll see here initially is your classes and groups. If you have not set up a class or a group, then you just click to add one here, and you can call it whatever you like. And so this is, you can have as many classes and groups as you like. So you can have intervention groups, whole classes, whatever seems to work for you. So I have already created a dummy reception class. So we're just going to go into the dashboard for that. And so you can see I've set up a few learners here, and the various interventions, various assessments have been done. You can see what phase and week the assessment was done for. And so this is a crucial element of this process, is that you can, it's cumulative. So you can do a phase 2 assessment at the end of phase 2, and then if you have somebody who's been struggling a little bit, then you can do another assessment sort of 3-4 weeks later once you've done the keep up intervention. So they keep attending the phonics class every day, but you're doing a keep up intervention alongside that using the trainertext library. And then you can get like 3 or 4 weeks into phase 3, run another assessment, and it will just assess what they struggled with before, plus any new material that you've added. So then on the dashboard, you'll see there's the ET, which is eye tracking. The very first thing you do is just check their acuity of vision to make sure they can, what size of text they can see clearly. And so most of these can see 10-point text, which is fine, except for Oscar, who can only see down to 20-point text. And when he needs a colored overlay to achieve that as well. So this is just an important check, that you're never putting text in front of a student who can't see it clearly. Obviously that's going to cause difficulty. So then you got the phonemic awareness. We test this with the pictophones, so they must know the pictophones, so that when we ask them to identify a phoneme within a word, they show they know it by clicking on the correct pictophone. So it's checking their knowledge of the pictophones as well as their phonemic awareness. If they can do that okay, then they can do segmentation. So now they are going to indicate the different pictophones relating to the phonemes in a word. If they are competent at that, then they can do some blending, where we reverse it the other way. We give them 3 pictophones and they blend them to form a word and then click the appropriate word. If they can do that, then we can go on to GPC awareness. So all of these are essential skills before you can really get into phonics, aren't they? So they're really they're phase 1 skills to a degree. And then we get into GPC awareness. So this is just matching a grapheme to a phoneme, again using the pictophone as the proxy for the phoneme. And then we look at how it all comes together in a bit of reading. So this is not a very realistic picture on Learner 6, because if you only know half the GPCs, you're unlikely to be able to read all the words. Then once you get to phase 5, then we check the lowercase and uppercase letters as well, but not before then, so you would just see those as blank until that point. So in order to do that, you click to log in, and what we'd recommend is you create a dummy account, and then you can demonstrate this on the smartboard. You can model responses. You can also get the children in the class to be giving the responses as you go through the dummy assessment, so that when they sit down to do the assessment, they're not trying to work out how it works, they're just being assessed. And of course, one of the key things here is that once they're familiar with it, the students can actually just do this assessment unassisted. So whereas before an assessment process for a whole class would basically take an entire day, it's 10 minutes for 30 students is 5 hours. So it's a huge investment in time. Now you can do an end of phase assessment, you can then do further assessments for the ones who you're doing the keep up intervention with, and all of that can be done without so much one-to-one time for this automated bit, which we are going to be adding a manual element which is going to read a wider range of words plus high frequency words plus some nonsense words. But of course we can't do this and that in this automated environment. So in order to add a learner, you click the link here and you'll get this interface, this form. So you put in obviously their first name and last name. Now if you want the parents to get involved in this so that they can then do reading on the trainertext library at home, then you put in the parent email here. They will get an invite to set a password up, and then can access all Aboard Phonics through the parent page, and it will set the class. It's automated, it's defaulted to the current class, but you can change that, and then you just add the learner. Now if you don't want to use parent emails, you do need to put something into the email address, and so what you can do is use a dummy school email, so the first name, last name of the child at schoolname.school.uk or whatever it might be. You need to put a full email in it, but it doesn't need to be a real email. It does need to be unique though, because it's used as an ID for the learner account. So then you build up your class of learners. Takes maybe 15 minutes, and then in due course these learners will be able to move between classes, so you're not having to enter them again. It's just 15 minutes in reception class to add a set of learners, and then you're good to go. Up here you can see that there's the you can set the assessment phase and week, and so as you go through the curriculum you just adjust these to reflect your current place in the curriculum. And then you can also set the library phase and week, so one would expect this to be at the same sort of point, and that's what controls which books the parents can access. And so obviously that's important, and that you do need to update week by week as you go through the curriculum. We would automate it, but of course there are half terms, there are holidays and that sort of thing, so the automation wouldn't really work. And of course you might be going through the curriculum at a different pace to the days and weeks that it shows on the manual. That's your choice entirely, and so we leave it to you just to update the library for the parents each week. In the class admin you can also look at the learner details. You can edit the learner details, and that includes the password. So if for instance a parent doesn't receive the email, can't use the lost password process, nothing's working for them, and these things happen, don't they? So the way around that is to just set a new password here and just tell them what it is, and then they'll be able to log in. And also another little bit which can be useful is if you want to remove a student account, you go to manage the group. So I went to account, your account, I went to manage group, and then you can remove any that you want to remove. I mean, obviously you will lose all the data and everything, so just be aware of that before you remove everything. And so, just to emphasize again that the assessment system tries to avoid putting a student into a situation where they will definitely fail, because of course, that, I mean, it's just not very nice to do that. So if these early, if their visual acuity is so poor that they couldn't use the assessment, or their phonemic awareness is so poor that they couldn't access it, then they won't be able to do these later ones. And so so you may see the assessment end for some students because they have not reached a high enough level. Now, the sort of hack to get around that, if you just want them to do the later sections of the assessment, is you just have to work through the assessment with them, help them a little bit, in these early stages, and then they can do the blending, they can do the GPCs, and they can do the reading. But it won't leave them to do that unassisted in a situation where we think they'll just fail. Good. And so, we hope you like this. It's relatively new, so it is in development. And if you have any feedback on it, we're always very interested in that and welcome the feedback. And we are adjusting certain elements to it in response to that feedback. So just to be aware of that. And so, for instance, this dashboard that I'm seeing now, would no longer be possible because Oscar failed phonemic awareness, but did do segmentation. That you couldn't do that now. So the more you use it, the more familiar you'll get, and I think you'll begin to see over the weeks and months how much time it can save you, and it allows you to keep up to date with the progress of all the students. So when you're doing these short keep up interventions, you'll be able to see whether that's working for those students, and know that they're back with the group and you don't need to do more assessments. So that's one of the aims of the tool.